Robinson Show.
Hey, this is Jay Sandlin.
Jay Sandlin,
What's
how you
going
doing,
on,
dude?
Jay?
Author Jay Sandlin.
Oh, man, that sounds so much better than what people usually call me.
What do they usually call you?
Man, I can't even say it on air, can I?
Yes.
No, you can.
You
we
can let it fly.
Yeah, we let it fly. You know, I have some secret identities. Usually it's people's insurance and financial services agent, actor in community theater, dad is a pretty common one, too.
I'd like to be called Daddy.
Years. But I like author. It's been nice to say that since I released the book, my book, Outbreak Mutiny, about 2 weeks ago now.
And that's all? That's all it's been out? My voice cracked.
Yeah, it's only been out for 2 weeks.
Wow.
It's been on Amazon. You can find it on Amazon, Outbreak Mutiny, for 99 cents. Ebook, also available in paperback on Amazon right now.
I've seen people just raving about it, bro. It's alternative history with superheroes.
Oh wow.
My two favorite things. I'm a historian. I write history. I'm in the master's program at the University of North Alabama. I take my research around to universities and present it, and people pick it apart and tell me I'm stupid and ask questions, and then we all go and have a moderately priced lunch afterwards. So that's academia.
Nice. Your story, what era does that take place in?
I'm sorry. Okay, the story takes place in a few eras. You're going to get the opening chapter. Now, I call my chapters issues because I'm a fan of comic books, and I wanted a comic book feel for the story. So the chapters are called issues, and it's a serialized story. You'll have issues 0 through 7 in this first volume, and then we'll release the next issues later. And then the first issue 0 takes place in 1929. That's Operation Triple Reich. It's the invasion of Boston by the bad guys called the Reich, and it's the end of what's called the First Outbreak War, which is the first war waged with superpowers.
Nice.
Yeah, it didn't go very nice for the Americans, I'm afraid.
Why? I thought we were the best.
I thought we had Dr. Manhattan.
Yes.
Yeah, man, actually, no, the other side had the better guys. The guys with superpowers in my world are called the Outbreak Babies. You know, like in the early 20th century in our world, you had the baby boom. In this world, you had the outbreak baby boom, which meant the sudden appearance of beings with superpowers.
Nice.
Similar to Static Shock, I think they called them like Baby Bang.
They did have something like that. However, on Static Shock with the metahumans or Marvel Comics with the mutants, you kind of spontaneously develop your superpowers, like Rogue in the first X-Men movie has them when she's making out with her boyfriend and gets kind of turned on, and then he nearly dies. Yeah, in my world, you have to go through like a seriously traumatic incident to get your powers. You have to basically nearly die to become a superhero.
Wow, that's pretty rad.
So like
No,
Jigsaw has to play a game with you, and
it's not rad.
Or kind of like the Highlander where he gets like where the Kurgan just stabs him in the chest.
I've never seen that.
oh, you've never seen Highlander?
I love Highlander.
Such a great movie.
I saw the episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force where Shake was it Shake wanted to be the Highlander?
Yeah, that's actually what made me actually go and watch that.
But I was just thinking, well, your concept is great, and I was just thinking because it kind of made me think of Saul for whatever reason, and like having a supervillain who just decides like, oh, I can bring out superpowers in people if I put them through these ridiculous, like really traumatic games.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly what happens. The Reich, which is part of Germany. Now, up until about the 1920s in my world, the timelines were about the same as our world. They still had World War I, which we called the Great War before it became a sequel, World War II. So since there was no World War II in my world, they still call it the Great War. And in the real world, Germany was the great power in Europe. After World War I, they were neutered. And the Treaty of Versailles took away Germany's right to a standing military, industrialization, all those things. So they were very, embarrassed. They were neutered. They were ashamed. And they rallied around Hitler in our timeline. But in this timeline, The Reich are people who rallied around the worst of the outbreak babies. And he did just what you said. He put the people through, the rigors to bring out the superpowers. He used his own kind, and he put them through eugenics-based manipulation through surgical, cutting, genetic, and mechanical enhancements.
Wow.
Through his mad scientist called the Shapers that created these, basically monsters, I guess, of who used to be people with superpowers.
Do both sides have the superheroes or the
Yeah, both
super
sides
babies?
have them, but once you get in the issue 0, you're going to see the Triple Reich is when the, like we said, the United States falls and there's a simultaneous attack on Boston, Pearl Harbor, and Moscow at the same time. You only really hear about Boston, though. They just mentioned the other two. And the other side is United States. Our side, I should say, is downside into the remnant states. And they're held in isolation. They have, I don't know if you guys saw the front of the book. I had a map.
I saw the map, yes. But I was going to ask what, because I couldn't see the legend. I was going to ask what it represented.
Well, you remember back in school, you learned about the middle states with the acronym MIMAL, like Minnesota, Iowa, Michigan, Arkansas, Louisiana?
Yes.
All right, so MIMAL is all that's left of the United States, now the remnant states. And they're trying to make it through. They're very poor. They're trying to live day by day. They're people who have superpowers, are kind of living in silence. They're trying to stay under the radar. There's a slave trade. That's what the Reich basically is. It's a slave empire. If you have superpowers, they're going to add you to their war machine until they can't use you anymore, and then they'll spit you back out. Wow. Yeah, it's not a happy world when you arrive. So that's where issue 0 starts, is kind of how you get to that world, and then issue 1 picks up. It jumps 10 years later, and you meet some people working in the remnant, just trying to live day by day. There's a virus that's broken out in Chicago, and that's where you kind of meet our heroes. You learn the cast. They go to Chicago in the sewers. They have a high seas adventure in the Gulf of Mexico. And then the final kind of battle scene is in the Outbreak Memorial Park, where they have a fight that's in Des Moines, Iowa. Des Moines has become the new capital of this remnant states.
Cool. Who was one of your favorite characters in the book?
Well, you've seen the cover, right?
Yes.
All right, so if you're looking at the cover, and you can see it at my Twitter right now, it's at Jay Sandlin Writer, or on Amazon, of course. And there is one in the background, and people always ask me about him. He's the robot. He's actually a set of power armor. He's like a steampunk Iron Man.
Yes.
And he's piloting. There's a pilot inside it, so he's a guy that they call a made man. He's an engineer, and he's built this power armor to kind of keep up with the superheroes and defend people, even though he doesn't have superpowers. Those are people called the Armorers Guild, and that's Clockwork. He's probably one of my favorites because he embodies the cliche superhero with, like, the silly catchphrases and that sort of thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's also a Grim Reaper looking dude. There's like a pirate with a hook hand almost.
Yeah,
and just a huge,
the guy in the hood there is he doesn't keep the hood on for very long. He kind of decloaks and you see what he's all about, but you can get a hint with the green scaly hand and the katana. That's the Okinawa Dragon. He's working with the Reich because Japan aligned with the Reich, just like Germany aligned with the Axis powers back in World War II.
Yes.
He's basically a slave to the Reich, and he's what you call a warlord. In the caste system or the hierarchy of the Reich, there are warlords who rule the conquered territories. They have acolytes that work under them, and then they have foot soldiers called the Reich Legion. So you're all trying to work your way up to being a warlord. That means you get to control territory. The Okinawa Dragon controls the Hawaiian Islands. Now they've become the Underworld Isles.
Nice. I like that.
Well, it's not a nice place. There's a penal colony. It's the penal colony, basically. It's kind of like Australia was back in the day for the British.
Yes.
But, that's where they send the worst of the prisoners with superpowers from the Reich. Basically, even the ones the Reich doesn't want to deal with, they go there. But
Are they like out of control? The ones they send there, like
those are out of control. There's also these out of control beings called the Misshapen. I mentioned the Shapers are these mad scientists that experiment with people with superpowers. The experiments that go awry are called the Misshapen. And there's one that shows up in the Chicago sewers, and it's just like even the superheroes thought it was extreme for the Reich to bring him there. People are very scared of him, and they're kind of controlling the western half of the United States in a Mad Max-style free-for-all anarchy kind of place.
Nice.
So would you?
So that's why it's so hard for the remnant. You're getting choked on all sides. You see, you got the Reich to your the Reich is there in northeast New England. And then you got the misshapen crazy people to the west. It's not looking good for them when you start.
Yeah. So I read something similar to that a couple years ago, which was it was a young adult thing. It was Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson. It's a good book, but it was like it was a teen thing. So is yours more adult content?
No, I wouldn't say it's adult. I would say there's very little language, no sex. There is violence in book form. I would give it a hard PG, maybe a PG-13 if you're getting picky. If you're in middle school or older age, I mean, I don't think it's anything you haven't seen in a PG movie.
That's my reading level.
There you go, man. There you go. I wanted it to be, and I wanted it to be approachable.
That's
that was
cool.
Something my sister, and I got to give a shout-out to my wonderful sister, Anna Sarah, and her new husband, my brother, Pete, who's listening as well. You guys need to talk to him. He's going to be starting a tech podcast soon.
Cool.
Check him out. It'll be he does the startups, the programming, all that good stuff. But they were telling me that they felt it was very approachable, and they said, "We got to be honest. We thought you were going to bog us down with your history stuff." Like who? Me?
Dude, I saw too, in your bio, it said you interviewed a World War II veteran who also worked on the Manhatten Project?
Yes, and the Manhatten Project very much exists in my world. And in the real world, I had a great experience. That's going to be a book that comes out later this year. It's going to be my master's thesis that I'll defend in the fall as well. A bit of oral history. He not only did he work on the Manhattan Project, he lived in Los Alamos. Are you familiar with the Los Alamos town?
I'm not. You guys?
So,
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
This is real life now. Los Alamos was a practice town. You know Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull? I know we all tried to forget it, right?
I like it. I like the
Yeah, you like it? I never saw it.
Yeah, I never saw
So,
it
all
either.
right. Well, there's a part where Indy goes to this town where they're testing nuclear bombs, and it just looks like a town out in the middle of nowhere, right? That was Los Alamos, except for the fact that it was highly populated. People, I guess I couldn't say highly, but people lived there. Wow. And it was just out in the middle of nowhere in the desert, which is what Nevada was at the time. Los Alamos was surrounded by these beautiful mesas, great scenery, and, the occasional atomic bomb blast.
That just adds to the flavor of everything.
Added to the ambiance.
Yeah.
So he lived there. Now he was a clerical worker, analytics. He did paperwork. He pushed paper. Actually, kind of the inspiration for the job of one of my main characters, who chapter issue 1 takes place in an issue called Paper Purgatory. That was kind of where I got that idea. But he went to Los Alamos to work on the bomb, and he said that when he got there, it was just like a thriving American town, but just surrounded by nothing. And there was one mailbox for the whole town, because not even the Postmaster General could get clearance to deliver mail there. So somebody would just come, wherever and drop the mail at this one box and leave, and I guess I don't know who distributed it. He said they bust in some Mexicans to do all their blue-collar jobs, but then they had to leave at the end of the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he spent some time there. He got to go back in '97, and he said it was, absorbed into the larger, cities. So you wouldn't have even known.
Wow.
But he didn't tell me a lot, except that it had just like the amenities like a theater. It would have a bowling alley, the soda shops. It was just like you were, in a town, but you were surrounded by nothing.
You said too. I said that he also worked for NASA during the Cold War.
Yeah, he was working with NASA, same stuff, kind of doing the budgets and the paperwork, but he worked on the Pegasus project and the competition with Russia and the USSR. And I asked him about that, and the quote that really stuck out to me is he said, even in the finance office, we still felt like we were trying to put a man on the moon. It was an awesome spirit of cooperation, and, that happened. I'm in Alabama. Now, a lot of it happened in Huntsville, Alabama. That was because some of the Nazi scientists from rocketry who came over here from Germany in Operation Paperclip, when we basically got the best German scientists before the war was going to end.
Yeah.
They requested a climate similar to their homes in Germany, and they picked Huntsville.
Wow.
So I'm curious, being a historian, do you just study American history?
Man, I've been kind of doing my master's program. I've had to study what they tell me to. Right now, I'm pretty heavily into the Roman Empire, and
I love the Roman Empire.
I like the Greeks.
I just did the coolest project on the historical accuracy of Gladiator, the film.
Really? Yes.
How accurate was it?
Not at all.
It's a fiction. I mean, it's an alternate history, just like I write.
Yeah.
Commodus was killed like he was in the movie, but it wasn't heroically. He was strangled in a bathroom by a wrestling coach he had by the name of Narcissus.
Wow. I've been called a narcissist.
You want to see the true story? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No.
Netflix did the Roman Empire Reign of Blood, and that is what Gladiator really was.
So wait, did that dude really fuck his sister?
No, his sister despised
him. Oh
him.
yeah, watch it, dude. It's amazing. It's a Netflix original. It's called The Roman Empire: Reign of Blood, and they actually adapted the actual story of what happened, and they casted it's a mix between a documentary and
like a rockumentary
and a drama. So they'll have authors and professors kind of talking, and then they had actually casted actors for Marcus Aurelius and Commodus and everybody. And dude, I just had to bring up, because there's this scene, and I don't know if it was true, maybe you know if it was real, but there's this scene in this documentary where Commodus decides he's going to abolish the Senate, and he's literally standing in front of the Senate, and he says, "Don't you hear the people? Don't you hear what they're saying? Commodus! Commodus! Come on!" And I just thought that was the most amazing thing, that this dude is just standing in front of the Senate yelling his own name.
Yeah. He also tried to change the name of Rome itself to Commodia. Commodia. I don't know how you pronounce it. And then he also said that he wanted to change the months, or one of the months at least, to be named after him. And then when he was strangled in the bathroom, the only place his name went was in the toilet.
Yes.
And that's where we get Commode.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
In this documentary, they didn't show it was in his bedroom. They showed that Narcissus showed up and strangled him just in his bedroom. They didn't show it was in the bathroom, but that's even more amazing. And it's because what happened is, I'm spoiling history for people, but
spoiler alert.
He was the first Roman emperor to fight in the arena, and the reason, and he won several fights, and the reason why is because he was giving all the gladiators dull blades.
Yeah, it was more than that. I mean, he won the fights in the arena in the same way that John Cena keeps winning the title, because he was booked too, and they paid the gladiators to lose. So.
Jay. I'm sorry, dude. I was going to ask real quick. We're getting close to running out of time. Would you be able to read us an excerpt from one of your books?
All right, I got one right here. I'll give you a quick setup. It's from my favorite issue called Abandon All Hope. Has a lot of Dante Inferno themes. The hero that we mentioned but didn't say a lot about, which was on purpose, that's the pirate-looking guy. He goes by the name Buccaneer, and he's leading a mutiny with his partner Round Robin. He is about to be killed by the dragon that we talked about. And then there's a third sailor that they're trying to save. He's a humdrum, which means he's a person that doesn't have any superpowers. So I'll do my best to read this out of context here and put a little dramatic flair into it. This is from Abandon All Hope. Dragon says, "Now for the broken one." McKinley thinks, "Oh no, the warlord of the underworld is talking to me." "Please no," he said. "I was overcome with maddening fear. I was so far out of my depth it was laughable. I sounded like a pathetic fool. But at that moment, I was beyond caring. I'm nobody," I pleaded. "I'm supposed to be a desk clerk." "Cowardice," Dragon said. "Yes," I agreed desperately. "I'm too cowardly for island jail." "Ninth circle," he said, "reserved for traitors and cowards." "Will that earn me a break, like Buccaneer?" "My hound Cerberus awaits thee. You shall be chewed endlessly within 3 sets of jaws." He just said I would be food for his dog. My tongue and my brain began to operate independently of one another. I spoke with delirium. "Dragon, milord," he said curtly. "Milord," I shouted. Surely the underworld requireth bookkeeping?" Dragon seemed perplexed for a moment. He shook his horned head. I hope he had decided I wasn't worth the effort. I watched helplessly as Muramasa rose for an overhead strike. Looks like my wish is granted. Part of me was relieved to see I'd earned a quick death. It would be highly preferable to becoming a chew toy in the underworld. In my last moments, I could almost hear the trumpets sounding my arrival into the afterlife. Then I realized the music was real. "What is that?" Dragon said. He looked frantically out to the sea. "That's the 1812 Overture," I said in a state of confusion that quickly turned to pure delight. I recognized the brass fanfare. It was popular in the remnant. Most attributed it to America's past, but it had actually been composed by a Russian. At that moment, I didn't really care, because accompanying the festival approaching the festival overture was an approaching battleship. "Insolence!" Dragon shouted at the incoming vessel. The ship was old. It was hardly a match for the Swashbuckler, but I would have been thrilled if a rowboat had come to help me. The distinctive hull was the last vessel from the old American Navy still in service. Despite the proud history of her call sign, this one was little more than a motorboat during the Great War. She had been decommissioned before the Soaring 20s. At that moment, she was a work of art to my eye. I especially loved the increased size and armaments. Captains had pushed her through the seas even in the remnant years. She remained reliable long past the recommended servitude. Today, I was thrilled she had not been decommissioned again. Instead, the Enterprise had arrived to save my life. I'll leave it off there.
Nice. That was awesome.
Awesome, man.
That's it. And there's a trailer for that. There's a character after that. If you skip ahead a little bit, that's when Clockwork shows up, the power armor character on the cover.
Yes.
He touches down, and he's there to fight the dragon because they have a history. They fought each other at Pearl Harbor. It didn't go well for Clockwork. He got cut open like a can of baked beans. I'll just read his last, and he's the one I said that has the cliche superhero line.
Yes.
Yeah, let me just read his introduction. It says, Dragon looked up at the Clockwork armor. He didn't utter a single word in the presence of his former opponent. Today was turning into a Triple Reich reunion. Are you ready for a rematch with the steampunk savior, the soldered soldier, the alloy ally? Representing the Armorers Guild, I am Clockwork.
Nice.
Awesome.
Jay, that was awesome, bro. Thank you so much for talking to us, man.
Oh, man, that was I felt like we just called.
Right?
We could go all night, man. We should do this again.
Absolutely. Where can everybody find you?
All right, so check me out on Twitter at Jay Sandlin Writer, where I am talking about geek topics all day and comic books, Outbreak Mutiny, and whatever other issues come to mind, history. You can find more about the novel comics at thenovelcomics.com, jaysandlinwriter.com, and just check out Outbreak Mutiny on Amazon in paperback and in ebook.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. We'll do it again.
Absolutely.
Right. Have a good one, man.
All right. Yeah, you have a good night. And just like the book says in the back cover, you either die free or you live in chains.
Nice.
Awesome.
Good night.
Good night,
Take care,
brother.
man.